guys, it's DS Yaxum. This is another edition of the Spectre, and I'm just I'm pretty excited about the topic of this episode. It's one of my favorite, totally crappy, awful. Actually, it was a couple of movies, and a little-known TV series that aired on the Sci Fi channel. It was called Black Scorpion, which was a sort of comic book stylized heroine. And it was created, and I use the term created loosely, by sci-fi and horror film director Roger Corman. He's a bit of a legend in the business, if you're familiar with him at all. Directed a lot of movies between, probably the late 50s up until he passed away. So this was actually one of his later projects. He produced the two films in the 90s, starring this really steamy actress. Well, I thought she was the hottest thing on Woman to Walk the Earth, Joan Severance. She's still hot. She's like 61, but she's gorgeous. But anyway, and of course that led to the, in 2001, the Sci Fi channel aired it was aired for one season, Black Scorpion, the TV series, which is basically like a, it's kind of like Batwoman, really. I guess that's the way to look at it, except, but anyway, here's just a couple of, here's the two actresses that played Black Scorpion. Clearly this show cut short or ended some careers. Most notably, it was probably Scott Valentine, who played, who was on Family Ties in the 80s. If you're a Gen Xer like me, you know who he is. He played her, Mallory's boyfriend, Nick, who is a fucking moron. He's like, oh, Mallory, he's a dumbass. So, and this was like, he played this role probably 15 years after Family Ties was, that he wasn't doing that anymore. I'm not sure exactly when Family Ties went off the air, when his character was somehow written off. But anyway, he plays Darcy Walker, who is the Black Scorpion's partner and kind of love interest, and there is absolutely no chemistry between these two in the TV series. Much less in the two movies that were made, which were probably straight to video. But part of the reason she assumes the Black Scorpion alter ego is because her father told her the tale of the scorpion and the frog. And this, of course, makes no sense. But here's some of the stars of this gem, and you'll get an idea of the caliber of this fucking show. Well, there you have it. So I'm not sure of how much this show rips off of Batman. I mean, heavily it is. There's a, it's someone who has a secret identity. Her father, well, one of her parents was killed. Her father was shot and killed. And she takes up the mantle of the Black Scorpion because she's inspired by the story that her dad told her, and that's the only thing they could come up with. It's kind of reminds me of the new Batwoman series because it's just that poorly written, and Batwoman, like Black Scorpion's, very irresponsible. I wouldn't say she's more heroic, she's just a more, thrill-seeking kind of person who isn't looking out for the public's interests. Because both Batwoman and Black Scorpion get a lot of people killed. So, of course, it doesn't. But what it lacks in, as compared to like Batwoman, is the woke sort of progressive politics and all that bullshit and all that. Black Scorpion has none of that. It's which is actually why it's at least more funny in any way to watch. It has all of the stupid ethnic sort of humor of white people and black people interacting that's been on television for decades in dramas and comedies and sitcoms or whatever. And in the TV series, Black Scorpion's all of her arsenal, her sort of it's either called the Stingray or the Scorpion Mobile, and all her gadgetry is developed by Argyle, who's an African American kind of a mechanic who was a car thief. And actually, in the movie version of it, where Joan Severance starred, it's played by SNL alum who was in the first cast of Saturday Night Live, Garrett Morris. So there you go. I believe he's still alive, but I have to admit I like the movie version better, not just because there's more violence and actually there's nudity in it. Those movies are R-rated. But just so you know, if you're gonna make a choice there as to which you want to indulge in, the TV series is just like a fucking Power Rangers episode, just about just that the villains are so campy and stupid. So they this car that basically it can morph. Both the movie and the TV series have this car that can morph, into this crazy technology, that just, know how some ex-car thief could come up with it, but that's what happened. So, anyway, moving along here, this is just a little bit more about the show, and just basically more of this stupid shit, that some more insight into this idiotic TV series and the two movies that inspired it. Clearly, this show and the two films that inspired it were never meant to be taken seriously. In the 2000 Sci-Fi Channel ran the one season of Black Scorpion with different lead actress, because this was like several years, almost 4 or 5 years after the movies were made. So I don't think she had any interest in doing that. So this actress named Michelle Lintel, who kind of looks like Laura Croft a little bit. She's another just gorgeous actress, and I don't know much of any else she's done. Some overall, the same setup as far as the origin story. As I said before, her dad told her the story of he was a cop raising her as a single parent, and he told her the tale of the scorpion and the frog, and he gets killed. So basically, she at some point goes on this, as an adult, decides to go on a, revenge. She's basically acting on revenge, much in the way like Batman does in the beginning. When her dad's shot and killed, with the aid of this, she was somehow friends with this which I said before about the car thief named Argyle. There's a different actor, a younger actor, his name's just BT, who's mostly just, for comic foil or whatever. But he somehow is just on the cutting edge of all of technology, as far as coming up with crazy weaponry that can, morph a car into another car, and she can, she like touches her ring and turns her costumes automatically. She has her costume on, which her costume's pretty basically meant to be really sexy. And the old movies were like, they actually had some sex in them. There were strippers, there were topless scenes, there was, a sex scene with the main character, the hero at the end, with her cop buddy at the end of the first movie. Not that I'm spoiling it. I'm not spoiling anything with these movies. You can't spoil them because you pretty much can gather what's going to happen. So, anyway, but getting back to like all these comparisons and everything to parallels to Batman and everything like that, which, I mean, it's not like the best Batman movies ever made, or if there's not really except for maybe the 1960s TV series, which is campy, but it still has a kind of classic because it was, new for its time. This is sort of taking up the, it's just like a play on that. That's what it was meant to be, basically. But there's a reason it just never became anything more than what it was, other than just two cheesy B movies and crappy Sci-Fi Channel series that came out at the same time Smallville came out, and the Birds of Prey TV series would last a season. I think there was just a, they tried to have a superhero sort of action TV series, even though it wasn't done on the same sort of budget that like a show like maybe Batwoman's done on, but Batwoman's done very terribly. And honestly, I'm not too impressed with the look of that show either. Even Supergirl looks a little bit better, I think, otherwise, effects-wise and set design, even though that show's totally going down the fucking shitter at this point. Not that you would expect otherwise after 5 seasons. So, anyway, so this is the, I'm gonna go into the car. This is what you're gonna see what it looks like now, or at least the most recent pic of it. There was 2 cars. In the movie, Joan Severance drove. The car was in just its regular form, was an old Stingray Corvette from the late 70s, like the car Dirk Diggler drove in Boogie Nights. And it morphs into a car that is basically a modified Porsche, maybe a 911 or something like that. But basically, you can tell if you take a good look at it. So that car, I think, is destroyed in the first episode of Black Scorpion, and then she gets the Corvette. Like, the car is a newer Corvette, and it's made up to look more like kind of a Batmobile. If someone was going to make like their own customized like Batmobile from like a Corvette, like I've seen, sometimes, that's kind of what it looks like. So it doesn't look like a really cool superhero car or cool like Batmobile like in the movies, or like in The Dark Knight. It's just this, kind of customized cheesy car. But anyway, it's a TV show, so what are you gonna do? So here it is, the Scorpion Mobile or the Stingray. It's called one of those 2 things. So here it is. So yeah, as you can see, just another old Hollywood car that was used in a movie or a film that's just sort of, left to rot somewhere or whatever, wherever it's at, probably out there in California. Before someone maybe decides to restore it and put it in some kind of car museum, which is the best outcome of one of these, vehicles that are used in TV series. But I don't think it's in a prominent enough show that anybody would care. So, but supposedly it's owned privately, and it's somebody bought it at like some kind of auction. But anywho, but if I have to choose between the 2, because I just watched the 2 movies over the weekend because they're on YouTube, and actually in anticipation against, I ordered a copy of it on Amazon, because I couldn't find it on Amazon, only to find out it's actually both films with Joan Severance are on YouTube on this one channel. So I found that and watched both of them, and because I have no life, clearly. And I'd have to say, if I'm going to choose between, the lesser of 2 awfuls in this case, I would have to choose the movies, because they're just in an hour and a half or so flick, whatever it was, you can kind of at least flesh out one story enough for it to kind of matter, even if it is cheesy and funny. I can kind of get into it. The TV series is just kind of too campy, and the cops are just so stupid, and everybody's really, it's just, you got the corrupt mayor with the busty secretaries having an affair with, and the mayor is played by Robert Pine, who is the chief from the TV series Chips. There's a lot of actors, older actors, that made cameos or starred in the show, including Scott Valentine, as you already mentioned, but just people's careers dying. But Robert Pine, I mean, his son is actually the guy who played Captain Kirk in the recent Star Trek reboot movies, or if you want to call them reboot movies, but he played Captain Kirk, and he's in the Wonder Woman films as Steve Trevor, so he's... so at least his kid's doing okay career-wise, and he's still alive. But Robert Pine's still alive, that is. It's good to hear that. So he, but I mean, hey, it's a paycheck, whatever, At least he probably was glad it was over after like a year of that. So, and even the weather lady on TV, the girl on TV, is like this big, busty woman wearing a bikini, doing a weather forecast, which is ridiculous. And it was, it's an extremely sexist and somewhat racist show, in retrospect. So I'd have to say that I prefer the Joan Severance show, even though it has the same kind of, kind of dumb racist humor. It's usually black people pointing out the fact that someone's white and they don't get it. So that's kind of what it is, type of shit. And yeah, I mean, not just because there's not any nudity or as much violence in the TV version, but I guess, when you think about it, it's like, it does sort of, add something. So, if you're going to watch something this bad. And the other thing with, of course, Black Scorpion is that, unlike Batman, but not unlike Batwoman, who does kill, because Batwoman did kill in the TV series, Black Scorpion kills. She doesn't give a fuck. Like, somebody's like really, I mean, in instances where she did not have to kill anybody, she just did, someone was being enough of a pain in the ass. But I thought that was kind of cool, like, there's no reason for her to be really clean. Her father kind of acted out of vengeance. I guess it's just sort of in her blood, and it's part of what makes her kind of cool and dangerous. If they did this show a little bit better, it might have been alright. And I think, but anyway, so that's kind of my summarization of this. It's funny. It's worth watching. I'd go watch the movies first if I was gonna, take to just really appreciate how bad the TV series is, because it does definitely pick up where the, not pick up where it. I mean, the series is a reboot of the movies. It doesn't, like, it does its own origin story, but it's the same exact origin story. So, and it's overall pretty much the same, but Joan Severance is just different, I mean, the outfit is sexy. I'm not going to say it's not. I'm ashamed to admit it, but I mean, as all good things, in 2001, it only aired for that year, went off the air and stuff like that. It had some pretty cool cameos. Frank Gorshin was on it, played a villain. Adam West played a villain from the old Batman TV series. He was on there, which was cool. So it's kind of worth it just to see some of that stuff and see, like, that this little just bad, campy show aired. It was on, and it was from kind of a different time that I can recall. When we kind of didn't take ourselves so seriously as a culture, and we were, I mean, political correctness knew its place. It didn't, like, it wasn't an presence as it has now. You know, you could kind of make fun of shit. Now you can't. So I guess that's the legacy of Black Scorpion. It's like it came from a time when you could kind of make fun of shit. You could have a sexy, hot superhero who kills people and likes to fuck guys, and it's cool, and you can have that, and no, you know. And nowadays it's like, you know, they'd have to make her like a lesbian, and you know, all that shit. Just stomping on men's balls. I suppose. I don't know. But anyway, so yeah, the show, of course, did eventually wrap for good. So, when the show was canceled, there was nothing much more out about it. There was no other, you know, TV series or movies or anything like that. However, in 2009, there was a comic book version of it, Incarnation, that came out. Pretty much same thing. It's put out by Blue Water Comics. I had to kind of find this, so... It says Roger Corman, so Roger Corman's still getting credit for kind of ripping off Batwoman or Batgirl and Batman. But there's a lot of super heroines that kind of have a similar, you know, they're basically like this. I'm surprised this actually wasn't a comic before, like realistically. But it was a TV series before it was a comic. And it didn't last very long, but I don't know how many issues there was out of this, but it's pretty cool. I mean, the car, actually, I dig the car in the comic more. It's more like the Batmobile in a way, like a modern Batmobile. I think that's what they were going for, because it came out around the time The Dark Knight came out, so it looks a little bit like that. Again, stealing ideas to make a cheesy character seem cooler and more creative than, you know, it actually is. And but that's my just take on this campy movie and TV series that came out in the 90s and in the early 2000s, and left its mark on pop culture, I guess. And I know everybody isn't gonna fucking hear about this shit, of course, and I'm just, you know, just because it's so surreal now. I still work. I'm going to work in this perilous time that we live in, you know, and everything like that. And I don't work in a place like a grocery store. I only work with a few other employees within a large warehouse facility, and so we're far apart from each other. So I'm not the same risk as like people who work in grocery stores, and especially people who work in hospitals. And I think they've really gotten, we've all gotten kind of a raw deal out of this, and just because this was something this country should have been prepared for, we weren't. And I do place my ire towards officials in the government and just whoever made the piss poor shit decision to not have proper pandemic planning and preps for a time like this. And that's not to get on my soapbox. I really don't like doing this, but it really irks me that, to put it mildly, that this was very preventable, I think. And you know, it could only, you know, I mean, Donald Trump is the biggest just flaming bag of poo put at the Republicans' doorstep. I mean, he is a practical joke on this country, and I don't know anybody sound-minded individual, because I don't think you are sound-minded if you support Donald Trump. He has been, you know, disrespectful of the press asking questions, which to me is just saying he's disrespectful towards us, because we, the American people, want answers. And he is there to answer the questions, and he should be reminded that he works for us. And he's not a fucking king, and this is just a major fuck-up. and that's really what it comes down to. And it's having into a tragic end, and it's not something we should stand for as a people. So I guess that's my take on that. Because instead of, I know people are putting a lot of cute little, that's nice videos of their family, live streaming them singing or whatever it is, and that's nice and everything, but I'm kind of fucking angry and fed up with this. And just basically this, with what was screwed up, what went wrong, and who we need to hold accountable for it. And there's none of that going on, because the people who probably were talking about this way back, whoever they are, with the president. I mean, the president would just like, he doesn't know shit. First off, Donald Trump is a fucking idiot. So, and this is what's happening. I mean, basically his first presidency has been like the Avengers, like, endgame, practically. I mean, he's just fucking ruined this country, and he's been a detriment to the world. And this is, I think, not that he's this disease, virus is his fault in and of itself, but the piss poor planning, and to the previous administration too, perhaps, is on them. So, but anyway, that's my say on it. I hope you're staying safe. I hope you're, you and your family, and you're, just, at least making the best of this awful situation. This has been another edition of The Spectre. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe if you enjoy my videos. And the next episode, I'm going to be talking about all the Star Trek The Next Generation feature films.